Happy Monday. Hope things are going well in the Office 365 front. Today, we're going to kind of go through what's happened over the last month. And as you know, there is always a lot going on. And especially since, Microsoft 365 covers many different areas from, Teams and SharePoint, but also Planner and all the other tools. And we're also talking about, from an administrative saying, Active Directory, identity services. So there's a lot of different things happening, and we're going to be touching on a lot of that today, and some really, really awesome pieces that I've been looking for, especially on the Teams front. I think you guys are going to enjoy some of the things that we have coming up. So the first thing I want to start off with bookings. And so this one is a kind of a new feature coming up where they're going to be actually allowing you to be able to do SMS notifications. So there's going to be kind of a trial piece to this where you're going to be able to get it for no additional cost, but after that trial, then you're going to have some pricing to be able to do the SMS. It's not going to be for free. But basically what happens is, this is going to be rolling out in September to mid-October. What's going to happen is that inside bookings, when you literally put in for an appointment, there's going to be a checkbox there to be able to send a text message for that particular person. So what this is going to do is like a reminder text message. Hey, by the way, we have this meeting coming up. So you're thinking about, maybe you have a small business and you're utilizing bookings for this, or you have a subset of your business where maybe it's a support type scenario, right? Or you want to be able to book in a customer in to be able to do one part of your company. This is an easy way to do it, and they can get that text message saying, hey, by the way, this is coming up. Just a reminder type scenario. We get that all the time. I get it for dental appointments and those types of things. So now you have this ability coming up here fairly soon. So take a look at that. On the SharePoint side, so as you guys may have known, and we'll reiterate this, Microsoft Stream is changing, right? So we have that Stream area where all our videos are. That came from the video portal. That was the original intent. Now moved to Stream. Now it's actually moving into SharePoint and OneDrive as the primary backend, but it's Stream on SharePoint is really the terminology that they're using. So as they're doing this transition, they're giving you opportunities to be able to help your end users, right? So last week, or last month, I should say, we talked about the ability to be able to do a customized banner. There's an update on that a little bit later on. I'll talk about that. But this is another piece of that pie. So in the tiles, right, the Microsoft 365 app tiles, you have this ability to be able to either keep it as Stream for now. I mean, it's not changed yet, but it will eventually. Or you can start moving to, Stream on SharePoint or Stream Classic. You can choose those, or you can do this automatically switch when that changes. So this is something from the administrator. And by the way, this is the SharePoint administrator side, that they're able to go in and make these changes so that they can be ready for that, right? So
after doing confirming the settings, go ahead and provide me the most recent envelope.
Hang on. All right, there we go. All right, another SharePoint side of things that we need to look at are planner cards. And if you guys are familiar with the Planner app, right, we have this capability actually here fairly soon, where you'll start seeing planner tasks. So if I get assigned something in Planner, then the associated SharePoint site, what I'll start seeing is that activity, that task coming up, because it's maybe due in a day. I'll start seeing that in my home screen, right? So that's automatic. That's happening in there. There's nothing really that needs to be done on your end. Just notify people, let them know, end users, that this is happening. Targeted release here, early June to late June. Standard release, then late June to early July. All right, let's jump into Exchange Online, and specifically with Outlook. So as you know, a lot of organizations have been dealing with hybrid work, right? And the crux of hybrid work is, well, one of the cruxes with hybrid work is, where am I going to be at when I'm going into a meeting? Am I going to be in the office, or am I going to be virtual, right? So this addresses that. So this additional RSVP option, which is coming out here June, you notice there's a couple different options here. There's a targeted release for Outlook on web and Outlook for Windows, right? So targeted early June. And then standard is late, mid-late June. In that time frame, you're going to see it for that. For Mac, it's late June. And then for Outlook Mobile, it's late June. Okay, so what this basically means is in that meeting reply, you have the ability to say, yes, I'm going, but I'm going to be virtual, right? So I'm going to be in person or I'm going to be virtual. So we're talking about this section right here. That's where I'm going to be seeing that, right? So that's an additional capability that you can then configure for meetings that are coming up. All right, another customization, and this happens to be around for quarantine notification. In fact, there was a couple different things. So if you're an Exchange administrator for your organizations, please take a look at this. So this is one of the ones that I think could be very valuable to you. But there's a couple other ones as far as how they're dealing with the quarantine side of Exchange. So rolling out standard late July to early August, and for government, early August to mid-August. What's going to happen is that you're going to be able to customize the email that this is coming from. So this is that quarantine notification. When you get a quarantine, you get an email saying, hey, something's been thrown into quarantine. Do you want to deal with this? Yes or no? So now you can then customize the email that it's coming from, which has been great because then you can say, hey, it's coming from our organization as opposed to coming from Microsoft. And so you can also put a custom subject in there, right? So to make it so that, this kind of stuff, people don't think it's spam, right? Sometimes that does happen, even if it is a quarantine message from Office 365. So keep that in mind. Just make sure you notify your end users that you're going to be starting to do this, and look for this as part of your security measures and notifications. Another Exchange, as I mentioned, there was a few things happening from a quarantine side of things. This is another one that's especially from an Exchange administration. The MS Defender for Office 365 quarantine asynchronous updates happening here. And basically what's happening is that there was an issue that came up where if I had, say, for instance, multiple domains that I'm dealing with, and I have a quarantine email that I want to be able to send to, maybe it's a sister domain, right? So in this case, we have Contosa.com and we have Fabricon.com. Tailspintoys.com. That was the other one that's in there. So what will happen in the past is I could actually, in that little box there, and I'm talking about specifically in here, right? I would be able to put an external domain. That external domain could be tailspintoys.com. However, that actually it was actually a security issue. And so we had a lot of feedback on that. So what's happening is that they're disabling that capability. So now this will not work, as you see. So I will actually have to download that, and I can do that message. I can do a password protect on that, and then I can send it over to somebody at Tailspin Toys to take a look at that and confirm what's going on. But it's kind of patching up a security hole that's been there. All right, let's jump into identity services. Just for a second here, and this is really customized the login page, and this is after you go to office.com and you type in your email address, then it will flip over to this. So we have a public preview here in early July, GA or general availability happening here late October or early October to late October. And basically what it does is give you some more custom branding capability. So it could look like something like this, that is something truly yours as you're coming into it. But keep in mind that you do actually have to have Azure AD Premium 1, 2, or Office 365 licenses to be able to do any of this. But if you do have that, then you're able to make some of these changes. And again, it doesn't happen when you go to office.com. It happens when you throw in your email address, because then it knows to go to, in this case, woodgrove.com, because that's now associated domain. All right, let's jump into Teams a little bit, because there's some really, really cool things happening. And this is one of those things that that from a Microsoft perspective, we talk to customers all the time. Hey, when are you going to get this? This is one of those things. And I know that we have competitors that actually have some of these features. So early July to mid-July, Teams meetings joining them by meeting ID and a passcode. So basically the ability when a new meeting is spun up, you're going to see something similar to what you see here, where there's going to be a meeting ID and then there's going to be a passcode associated to that meeting ID. And so you're going to be able to go into Teams, web, mobile, or even the desktop client, and you're going to be able to say, join by meeting ID. You don't need the link. You don't need anything else. You just need that meeting ID and passcode to be able to get into it. Additionally, there's going to be a public web page that people can then just go to, add the code, right, the meeting ID and the passcode, and they will automatically spin up that Teams meeting for you without having that URL, right? So this change is coming here again in July, so keep that in mind and make sure you have your documentation ready for your end users so they know if they want to take advantage of something like that. All right. Let's move on. Another Teams one that, again, I've been really, really looking forward to. And again, just one of those features that we haven't had, and some of the competitors do, the collaborative annotations and presenter shared screen. So basically what this is giving us the ability to do, starting here like pretty quick, mid-June to late June, is the ability to be able to, on a screen share, so if I'm sharing my screen here, I'd be able to use, and basically they're utilizing the whiteboard tools to be able to annotate on the screen collaboratively. Right, so if we had 5 people in a meeting and we wanted to be able to dissect a diagram that we have or work together on something, we could do it right here. Like I could throw a PowerPoint presentation, maybe have some pieces here, and then we all could be able to go in there and actually diagram or annotate into that. This is real time, by the way. And as I mentioned, it is using the MS Whiteboard tool set to be able to do that. So in the screenshots, you're kind of seeing that MS tool right here, right? That's that toolbar. And by the way, you can then adjust who can annotate. All right, so everybody can do it, or only I can annotate. And then you can actually have what's called collaborative cursors. And what that does is literally, so if I'm in here and Michelle's in here, I can see her cursor with her name on it. And she can see mine with my name on it. So we know who's doing what. Big, big, big deal, especially for those who are trying to work together in a collaborative manner in a meeting. Make sure, again, your documentation is set to be able to notify your end users that this is happening. All right. Also announced GA timing for shared channels. And I know that we had conversations in the past. We've had people come and talk about shared channels and what that really is. So rollout is happening mid-July to mid-August, right? So this is that capability of being able to have internal and external people work together. And the biggest thing is for those external users, because then I don't have to switch tenants. So say, for instance, you have a scenario where you have your company and you have a sister company. And right now, if you bring them in from an external B2B scenario, which is highly suggested, they're going to have to switch between the tenant that they have and then yours to be able to access collaboration and chat and all that stuff. Well, this eliminates that. And once you have that external access and even federation set up, what you then see is that as that external user, I'll see that in my Teams list. And then I will see updates and I can collaborate from my Teams versus having to jump into that other tenant to be able to access. But there are some prerequisites. Make sure you follow documentation on that. Reach out to your Microsoft people if you need more details on how best to do that. But again, that's coming up here fairly soon, and that's been something that's been talking about for quite a while. All right, another thing happening on the Teams, but on the mobile side, and this is both iOS and Android. There's actually 2 different announcements happening. One was for iOS and one's for Android. As you notice, the 2 different numbers up here, right? So here's the iOS and here's the Android one. Mid-June to late June, you're going to start seeing in these apps, you're going to start seeing chat bubbles. And this is going to be inside the meetings. When you're inside a meeting, you'll see these chat bubbles pop up. You'll also have the ability to be able to snooze them if you want to, right? So you can either go into the settings for the meeting, the ... and you can say don't show the chat bubbles, or you can just immediately snooze. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a little snooze button right there that allows you to be able to go in and snooze for this meeting, right, period, or for temporarily for that particular meeting. Again, notify your end users and let them know that this is happening. And Benjamin, I agree. I have a lot of companies that I work with from the Microsoft side that it would be a lot easier that I don't have to switch, but I think that's going to make it a lot easier, especially that shared channel side of things. All right. So a lot of quick mentions. I mentioned there was just a lot going on over the last month. Product groups are really working hard to be able to get updates to different apps and adding new features. But some things to be able to highlight from a information protection side of things, the ability for you to have, if you have information protection set up on a Word or a PowerPoint document, right, or even Excel spreadsheet, if you were to PDF them, now this is going to be persistent. So this information protection will go along with that PDF. And so then if you send that PDF, then that person who maybe doesn't need to have access to it will not have access to it as a PDF. But you're able to then adjust that as needed. That's coming out here late June to late July. Defender for Office 365, hourly option for notifications. This one is interesting because in the past, you didn't have the ability to be able to do an hour yet. It was more extended. So what would happen is that you'd have people like, I really want to know immediately, well, relatively immediately, when I get a quarantine. Well, this will give you that capability, right? So it's a more of an immediate scenario where they'll see it earlier than not. Control for Bluetooth headsets and speakerphones. This one's coming here standard in GCC late June, so pretty quick here. And then GCC high late July and August. But capability of, you may have seen the announcement that anything that has Bluetooth capability now, you'll be able to support answering and ending calls with the buttons that are on those particular devices, which has been something that Teams users have been asking for quite a while, so they don't have to always have a dongle on that computer to be able to have these capabilities. Also, big change coming from the Power Automate side of things, so the flow, right? So in June, July, flow.microsoft.com is going away, and it's being flipped over to make.powerautomate.com. And so make sure you guys are ready for that change. The biggest thing from an administrative side of things is making sure that the URLs in this particular message center tells you exactly what URLs that you need to make sure are not blocked, right? So if you have any systems that you're blocking specific URLs or allowing, right, on an allow list, add those on. From a Teams calling side of things, we have the caller ID, call apps for call queue agents. Again, Teams telephony or Teams phone, specifically early June to late June, so right now, basically you have this capability of saying you have a call agent that's on a call queue and they're going to do a dial out, right? But you don't want them to have their personal number showed when they are dialing out. You can actually set it so that it will use the call queue phone number as opposed to their personal number. So it's big for a lot of contact center style scenarios that you're using Teams telephony for. I was actually looking at this one here, the capture voice recordings, using live text-to-speech with the Office mobile. If you have the Office mobile app, right? It's the little Office icon. It combines the Word, Excel, PowerPoint, as well as has the capability of taking images. You know, it's at Office Lens upgrade version. Well, it's available now. And if you try this, you'll go in there, you push the plus button, and then you have the option to do a voice memo. But it's not just a voice memo. It'll actually flip it to text, speech to text. And if you play it back, it'll highlight the words. So kind of a nice little feature, but you can make your own, memos to yourself. You can actually export those out. There's a lot of capabilities coming on with that. Another feature, I'm going to jump a couple of these. I know you can read a lot of these, but Teams Chat with Self is coming out here. I've seen it internally. But basically, think about it is that you can start a chat for yourself. And it's actually something that some of the others, I think, trying to remember if it's WhatsApp or if there's another one, maybe Slack does this, where you can do your own chat to yourself for reminders. You can put files in there. You can just throw information that is all about you that you have to remember to do something, right? So that's coming out here in mid-June, late June. And then multilingual features within SharePoint. So keep that one in mind. You can create a team site in more than one language now. So it's a lot easier to be able to set that up. All right. In the update, there's a lot of updates, and I'm going to call a couple of these out only because they're kind of relevant to what we're talking about. The one I was talking about, the stream, there is a change, right? So it was going to be coming out here mid-May to late May, but now it's going to be mid-June when it's finishing. So if you don't see that capability from an admin side for stream to be able to throw that custom banner out, that's coming here fairly shortly. The ability to have multi-languages within a meeting invite control, that changed as far as the dates when that came out. And the co-organizer meeting role, which is, we kind of talked about that, oh boy, I want to say a couple months ago when that came out. That also slipped, right? So we're talking mid-June to late June when this is going to be happening. So slipped just a little bit. Couple other ones. Oh, the large folder delete in OneDrive and SharePoint document libraries. That one, you can delete over any folder that's over 10K. Before this release, you're not able to do that. Now, the end date kind of slipped a little bit into mid-July as opposed to late May, so you haven't seen that yet. Make sure you look for those. And then admin actions. I do want to kind of talk about quickly a couple things, i.e. 11 is not supported, is retiring after a year, 2 days, right? So keep that one in mind. Some big change we talked about last week. There's some retirement of graph IPs and PowerShell. So keep that one in mind. Some basic auth deprecation happening in Exchange Online. Now, hopefully you guys have moved away from basic auth and utilizing more modern ways to be able to, or modern auth to be able to do that. So make sure that you guys have taken care of that. And then there's some new PowerShell controls for loop happening. And that's that for Message Center. Michelle?